Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, Paint Mind Studio. My name is Diana and today we will be drawing Phantom Manor from Disneyland, Paris. This video is all about the impact of shading. First, I will briefly explain how to break down a complicated drawing into deliberate and efficient steps. I will then explain how to build up tonal values in order for the shading to make sense. I will also share with you some tips and tricks on how you can use shading to correct mistakes. Lastly, I will show you how to add foliage and trees in a super loose, fun, and quick way, all with shading. So stick around for this special drawing session, Halloween edition. Okay guys, so right away I'm starting with a piece of the horizon line. In the reference image we actually have one that's visible, and I'm gonna need a little bit of it in order to know where to place this haunted house. I only need the left side of it for now, so that's what I drew first, very choppily, and now I'm drawing guidelines, some guidelines and some dots. Also as a guide. And the first section of this image that I want to tackle is going to be the roof, because the reference image is very dark. A lot of it is in shadow, and the roof area is going to be the section that we see the best. And I also want to make sure that I don't draw it too high. Here I'm showing you how I'm drawing these dormer windows. I'm not drawing them very exact because the detail of it is going to come with the shading. And the roof is where we have our bigger shapes. Here I'm adding that larger front window that's got the shutters. And I'm keeping it very loose. I'm doodling in this metal work that's at the ridge of the roof line at top. And so now that that roof area is essentially complete, the line art for that, I can now move down to the porch roof. Now I know exactly how far out to take that roof edge on the left, and I know how far into the house to take it on the right side. With the porch roof line complete, I can now start adding a few more of the porch details, like these long posts. I'm drawing guidelines for the stairs that lead to the front of the house. I'm keeping it all very sketchy. I'm adding some of the windows here in the porch area. And here I'm going to point out mistake number 1, which is the downspout. The downspout is actually situated in the corner area of the porch, and I drew it closer to the center of that right edge of the roof line because I was following one of the guidelines that was meant for something else, and I thought that that was the downspout line. But I'm not bothered by it. I know how to fix things like that, and I'm going to show you once we get to the shading. Now that the porch roof is complete, I can now move on to the next section, which would have been more difficult to draw without all those other elements first. And there I'm pointing out mistake number 2, which is the railing of the balcony. I drew the right post, the very right post, all the way to the edge of the side porch roof. And that's not where it's supposed to be. It actually ends at the edge of the wall. But again, not bothered. We're going to fix it. Here's a close-up of how I'm adding the details to the stairs, because it's a small area, but the posts on the railing are actually very intricate. And if I were to just draw straight lines, then you wouldn't know that they're intricate. So the way that I indicate the intricacy is by drawing these sort of teardrop shapes, because they're quick, they're easy, and they're not straight. So it fools the eye into seeing an intricate detail that's not actually there. So that's a little trick for drawing intricacies. I did the same thing to the front steps there. And I'm drawing the connecting wall, which is just another set of stairs leading off to like a side garden area. I'm adding those teardrop shapes that indicate the intricacy. And I'm just connecting all these little areas. I'm drawing the front posts. They're right in the foreground, so they're going to be slightly bigger than the other things. Here, now that everything is essentially complete, I can move on to finishing the porch area, which I left for last because it's very heavy in shadow, so the details are very hard to see. But I still want to draw them in. You might be thinking, like, why not just like shade it all in black since it looks so dark? But you don't want to, because the image is going to look flat, believe it or not. So now we're starting the shading. I love the shading. This is the fun part. So what I'm doing is I'm darkening up the hips, the side edges there of the roof. I'm darkening the lines at the bottom where like the gutters would be. There's also some intricate details right underneath the roof line, but again, I'm not drawing them in detail. I'm just drawing these sort of little half kind of S shapes. I'm drawing very fine lines to indicate the woodwork, and I'm shading right over it. I'm not skipping those lines because you want to have a mix of your lighter values and build up the tone. Slowly, I'm darkening things up. I'm darkening, again, these gutter areas and these little S shapes underneath. And I'm doing that with cross-hatching, heavy cross-hatching. I'm shading the dormer windows. And to shade those, I want to make sure that the bottoms are dark, the sides are dark. I'm also pointing out that with the shading, I'm straightening out my line work as well. I drew it very sketchy, very choppy in a lot of areas, and the shading gives me the opportunity to clean up all those lines. That's what's going to make this whole thing look pretty in the end. I'm slowly adding the values. And to add the shadows on the roof, I'm building up these hairline strokes, right? And these flicking motions where I'm starting out thick on the upper area of the roof where it would be the darkest. And then as I extend those lines downward, I'm flicking so that the bottom areas of those lines are very, very fine. I'm adding cross-hatching again to the bottom of the roofs where these little intricate things are. I'm shading the balcony roof, this little tiny balcony roof, you don't want to forget it. I'm making sure that the bottom edges of the roof are very dark, super dark line, because they're at the bottom and they hold the most shadow as far as the roof is concerned. I'm drawing the front windows on the second floor there. I mean, defining them with the shading. You can see how it's all looking more cleaned up, more put together, just through shading. Here's a close-up of how I'm darkening up the areas of these windows so that you can see where these darker values are situated, where they need to go. Even though it's very difficult to see any kind of light source in this image, it's more or less coming from the left side. So I'm putting those deeper shadows on the right side of all these little elements. I'm adding the windows to the side porch. I'm darkening the areas of the side porch roof. I drew these little lines. They're kind of angled, and I wasn't too happy with how that looked. So I'm using shading to draw them, more of them, so that it looks like they're closer together and more vertical, which looks better. Here I'm fixing that downspout by making it into a supporting post. And I did that by darkening just the upper part, the part that's right in front of the house, and completely ignoring the bottom. If I were to darken up the bottom, then there's no fixing that. Not easily anyway. I'm slowly building up the values with lines, horizontal lines, when it comes to the walls of this haunted mansion. And with the shading, I'm going very dark because with this particular drawing, we are trying to capture an emotion. We're trying to convey a mood. And the shading is really going to help bring that out. That's why we're going so dark with this. But slowly. You don't want to put these heavy shades into your big areas just in case you go too dark. Then that's going to force you to shade everything else differently. So for the most part, you want to start with the lighter values and work your way up. You have to be patient and build it up. For the side windows there on the side porch, I'm drawing in the details of the window, even though they're mostly going to be covered up. But that's because you'll be able to see that they're windows. If I skip certain areas of these windows and just darken up the areas without using any type of line work, like without varying my lines for the shading, then it's going to look flat. It's a little bit hard to believe, I know, but it's important. If you add these little details and then shade it, it'll be easier to see that these are windows. I'm adding more downspouts in the correct location. Here I'm showing you a close-up of the stairs and how I'm shading those in. The stairs, since that's a smaller area, I'm actually working from dark to light with the same flicking motions that I did on the roof. And right away, I'm putting in dark areas in between these intricate posts, which are really not intricate. They're just teardrop shapes. But they look it. I'm continuing with this stonework, continuing to hide the wrong downspout. And you can see how it's virtually gone now. Now I'm starting to shade the porch area, which I left for last because to my eye, it's the more difficult area. And again, I added the details of the front door, those windows adjacent to it, for the reasons I mentioned when we were doing the side porch. The stonework that I'm adding there at the bottom of everything, it's not intricate. It's just very loose lines to indicate some type of brick, some type of stone. It's all going to get shaded. I'm slowly building up my values under the porch. I'm darkening up the supporting posts. I'm adding the railing. And the railing I drew in the same way that I drew the railing on the stairs. I'm darkening up the gutters there on the porch roof. Very heavy. All of these lines at the bottom of everything, of the roofs, they need to be the darkest. So I'm just putting a thick, heavy line right away. I'm drawing on the posts, on the upper area of the support posts, I'm drawing thick lines to keep in mind where I want to put these super dark values. And I'm doing that with heavy cross-hatching. Just right away going dark. With the walls, I'm being more careful, just like I was with the other walls. I'm starting with my very fine lines and adding more and more fine lines until I get certain areas dark. That's how I'm building up my values. Slowly working my way up from light to dark. Because you don't want to lose the details that you see in the porch. Otherwise, it's just one big black thing and it's going to look flat. I emphasize that a lot. I know. It's important. You can see how all this heavy shading is really conveying the fact that this is like a creepy, haunted mansion, you know? Now I'm starting to add some outline shading to the stones at the bottom. My white pen has run out of ink now at this point. I'm switching to the pink one so that I don't have to stop to refill. That's basically why I have to. I'm adding shading with this final shading on the stonework. I have completely corrected the downspout mistake. And I bet you if I hadn't pointed it out at the beginning, you probably wouldn't even know that it had been there. I'm shading the front posts, and I'm being careful about it because they're right in the front. But it's quick because they're just two little things anyway. I'm adding this sort of gate that's at the front in single strokes. I'm not making that choppy because nothing else is going to get added to those. So I want to just get them right away. Now comes the super fun part, this shrubbery, the trees, it's all super loose. You can see how I just drew lines where I knew that I wanted the foliage to be. And I'm using very fine hairline strokes to indicate these, the leaves, and I'm building on it. I'm using super fine lines and just building it up. Not everywhere. I'm keeping my darker values closer to the center because I don't want to hide my lighter areas. When you're working on something so monochromatic like this, where you're just using one color, you want to make sure that even though it's very dark, you want to make sure that you do leave these lighter areas in order to help these dark tones stand out and to show just how deep they are, to show all the different values and your line variation. I'm adding some loose hatching to the ground and some loose cross areas closer to this mansion, this house. With the shrubbery, I'm doing squiggles. You know how I like my scribbles. And I'm starting again very light and building my way up to the darks. Without losing the lighter areas, I'm adding twigs, I'm adding sticks to show that these are shrubs. You can see how there's very definitive areas of light and dark. I'm adding little bushes to the ground area near the foreground and adding little shadows to it to add to the realism of it. I'm adding more trees closer to the house, but very loosely. They're not really very important, but I see them, so I'm adding them. I'm adding some more little architectural features that I didn't notice before. They're quick to add. Here's another little shrub. Now for this big tree on the right, I'm starting with the branches, with the tree trunks. They're thin. And I'm adding them even though they're going to be covered up, but I still need some type of a guide to know where I want to keep it light and where I want to darken it up. And the twigs and the branches and things, they help with that. And for that, I'm just adding dark lines on the bottom edge of them, just for dimension. And now I'm adding more squiggles, more fun squiggles. It's super quick, very fine ones. Start light and work your way up just by scribbling over those marks. And the more you scribble over an area, of course, the darker it's going to become. But I'm making sure to keep those darker areas where towards the middle, towards the bottom, where they would be the deepest. I'm doing the same thing to the tree on the left. And the trees on the left, it's like the one on the very left is similar to the one on the right, but then there's also these evergreens that are triangular in shape. And so I'm squiggling in a triangular manner to indicate those. It's very loose. And the reason for that, the purpose for that, is to not take away focus from our phantom manor. That's the focal point. So that's the one that's going to have the deepest shadows, the most detail, and everything else around it is just loose. And now it's done. I'm titling it Phantom Manor, Disneyland, Paris. I'm signing it. And that's it, guys. I know it was quick, but I hope that it was helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And here's a close-up of the finished illustration. I love it. I had so much fun. Shading is my favorite part of illustrating. And when I can go heavy like this, it's just more fun. And of course, my squiggles and my scribbles, they serve a purpose. What do you think? I hope you like it. Thanks for being here, guys. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you in the next one. Happy Halloween. Bye.